presentation is on, we're going to introduce ourselves, who we are, and why we chose to work evidence-based. We really want to be honest in the way we do business. We want to be transparent. If we're taking a certain position, we can always back it up with the sources where we got it from. We try to take care of the psychological well-being of the people that we work for and the people in the organization that hire us. We try to be customer-oriented and we want to be trustworthy. And we do that by working with academics and universities well known in Europe. So adding all these values together, we came up with one conclusion. We want to work evidence-based.
Well, the concept, trying to explain what's evidence-based about, we need to talk about three different sources of information and about how reliable are these. And the first one is experience-based, the second one is information-based, and then the third one, which we refer to, is the evidence-based. So experience-based, what is that? Well, it can be anything. Your own experiences. Maybe your grandmother is telling you a story about her experiences. The problem is that our experiences are not always that trustworthy. Let's take the stock markets. How trustworthy are our experiences there? Predicting the future stock movements, they don't do a good job. In fact, taxi drivers and chimpanzees do a better job sometimes. But information-based can be any information, like from the newspapers. Now, a lot of people think that if they hear something about science in newspapers, that it's actual science. We had a lawyer in Belgium, for example, and he was saying, he was making a psychological statement like, he said, well, profiling is the future. Now, if you look at scientific research, profiling is crap, basically. It's dangerous. You are going to try and describe somebody, and if that person fits in, you're going to believe he is the criminal. It's very dangerous. To overcome those problems with our own biased experiences, our willingness to believe what we want to believe, the difficulties of getting good information, that's why we created the scientific method. And of course, we are sure it works, so you can be sure it works too. So let's see what the evidence-based criterion scientists are using and that we have adopted. You need a sound theory, and sound theories are convergent with the fields that are kind of harder sciences. Empirically tested hypothesis. A good hypothesis should be able to confirm or to disconfirm at the same time. You need sound test construction, high retest stability. You need a test that is, if you measure it, then a few weeks later you need to have the same outcome. Convergent validity. There are many tests, and so you also need to see whether your measurements are convergent with the measurements of other tests. Sometimes these tests only take a partial measure. So, and then the final criterion is, of course, has this research been published? So these are the criterions, that was also the criterion we were facing. So for us, this saying by Carl Sagan is very important. Science is like a candle in the dark.
So, based on our choice to work evidence-based, we introduced evolutionary psychology in the way we work. We use the Big Five or five-factor model. We work with CBT protocols, for example, to coach leaders on anger or fear. We use some proven pedagogical methods like priming and self-convincing. And of course, we also work with a true circumplex. But what we're still missing is a good leadership measurement. So, conclusion was made, we have to need to develop our own tool. So why did we think of the circumplex for a leadership? Well, first of all, that leaders influence through interactions. And our primary hypothesis was leadership is interpersonal and can thus be captured in circumplex or two-dimensional space. So what we got confirmed was the first evidence-based criteria, that is, we need a sound theory, and the interpersonal circumplex has been proven to be a sound theory.
So very high internal reliabilities of scales. So if you take the test again, standard is 0.70, we had 0.80 or more. The convergent validity was very good. and the predictive validity of the CLS360 was higher than all of the other measurement instruments. But we were not yet there, because you can build a test, but that doesn't mean that you have a true circumplex. Agency and communion, two concepts which we share with all social species. They have the same vector length. That means that each scale needs to have the same strength. So you want to see whether the two perspectives are the same, because if a self-perception of a leader says, I'm inspirational, but somebody else finds that being, I don't know, authoritarian, so you have a problem. And we basically said, well, we use the traffic lights metaphor. Green styles, you can go ahead, this is okay. The orange styles, amber styles, are transitional. So if you do too much of those, you get into trouble. And the red styles, we only found negative things. So basically that says stop and reflect. If you do that a lot, this can cause a lot of problems. For the time being, the theory was okay. The sound test construction was okay. But the last one, the white paper, that's also a venture. But we can be proud we succeeded in that too. There needed to be 2 more studies, so it has been a process for a while, 2 extra years. This resulted in a paper called Integrating Leadership, the Leadership Circumplex, which appeared in an A1 paper. But it's a never-ending story, as I told you. But if you're intellectually challenged or interested, that's always very fun to do too. So, it's an ongoing process, and that's where our story ends.